Oh, welcome to the other side of medicine, everyone. I'm Dr. Christosic. Glad that you're with us here this evening. I am glad that you have taken the time to spend a little bit of time this evening with us. We have a special guest. Rick Bramos is in the house with us tonight. He's the author of 2 Days to Fitness. So if you're looking for a shortcut for a way to be able to get fit, get healthy, be able to live independently healthy, then you've come to the right place because Rick has got some good information for you tonight. Rick, welcome to the other side of medicine. Glad you're with us.
Thank you, Dr. J.
Good.
Glad to be
So
here.
good. Good. So Rick, tell us. I know that you're actually a fitness trainer. Give us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, I've been in the business 50 years. I was coach in the Army back in 73. I actually owned the first Gold's Gym in South Carolina back in the 80s when I was powerlifting, bodybuilding. Then I turned my attention when I was in my 40s to teaching aerobic classes, step classes, Les Mills body pump. In fact, I was one of the only men back in the late 80s, early 90s teaching the spinning classes, all those. So I got a wide variety of experience in the fitness game.
Sounds like it. Yeah. And so you're actually a co-author with one of my colleagues, Dr. Grisanti, on this book, 2 Days to Fitness. And how did you get connected with Dr. Grisanti?
I actually met him at the gym one day, and I didn't know him, so I walked up to him and I was critiquing actually one of his exercises he was doing. Of course, I approached him properly, and he let me critique him, the kind of nice guy that he is, you know him. And at the end, he told me he was a chiropractor, he was a competitive bodybuilder in the past, but he said my information was good, so that made me feel good. We've
Well,
been
that's
friends.
good.
We've been friends ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. Well, I know that Dr. Grisanti is, if he's going to put his name on a book with you, you've got to have some good information. So I'm excited about having you with us tonight, and we're going to really dive into your book. What inspired you to write the book, though?
Uh, uh, Long story short, about 15 years ago, sitting at the gym talking with a lot of friends, and after training people for 20, 30 years, and I was talking to friends, and why don't more people stick with their exercise programs? And it just hit me right there, just like a light. You hear about the light coming on, and I realized right then and there that the majority of people, the majority of Americans, will never be in the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week. And at that time, most of my clients were working with me only 2 days a week, and they were getting great results. And it just hit me. I said, 2 days to fitness. And people can stick with that because it wasn't overwhelming. So that's where the name came from. The light bulb,
Yeah.
it just came on.
Well, you're absolutely right. Americans are pretty much, to be honest with you, lazy when it comes to exercising. When we look around, we have 65% of Americans are overweight. Most people potatoes because they feel like it's overwhelming to think that they have to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, or if they have to jump into a triathlon or a marathon or some sort of a race that is going to require a lot of demand on their body. They just don't feel like they're up for it, and so they're coming home from work tired.
Right.
They really are looking for a shortcut, and this book has a lot of good insights, I believe, for people to be able to find a way to incorporate exercise in their life and a dietary strategy that has a lot of good qualities in it. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit on that because I'm really somebody who is an advocate of eating a lot of carbs, as long as they're carbs, what I call carbs from heaven. And most Americans are eating a lot of carbs from hell, and they're
Exactly.
eating refined carbs, and they find themselves in trouble because those refined carbs, as you know, raise their insulin levels and end
Hmm.
up having what we call insulin resistance. They end up getting pre-diabetic, uh, setting themselves up for heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, a lot of other conditions that are linked to insulin resistance. So we're going to have an interesting discussion tonight, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about what your dietary protocol is. But let's
Okay.
start.
Okay.
What does it mean, 2 days to fitness?
Well, again, the studies as far back as the 70s at the YMCA's, they did studies showing that two workouts a week was sufficient to maintain strength and have a reasonable level of fitness. And in my experience with all my clients, it's true. And again, on the point we were talking about before, everyone wants to be fit. The problem, as you said, is time. Most people have jobs, they have a life, they've got kids, they've got other things going on. And in most cases, to be in the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week, as you said, is just too overwhelming, even though they want to be fit. But the 2 days to fitness is just the best thing I've ever done. It works. 99% of all my clients are still doing 2 workouts a week. And believe it or not, I've had clients that said, I'm going to get a third one in, and they never do because they can fit 2 in. Any more than that's just too much, I found. But the 2 workouts work. If it's a strategically designed workout, which we'll talk about.
Okay, very good. So let's talk a little bit about the conditions that most people find themselves in when they exercise. They're thinking that they're going to have to do long distance running, or, like you said, 3 or 4 days a week in the gym doing free weights or machines. What does the research show about the pitfalls, the advantages of doing that kind of exercising?
Okay, here's the problem. That's a good point. And I talked a lot about cardio. And the first thing I tell everybody about cardio is that resistance training is cardio. So the basis of my book basically is this. Most people have time restraints. So what's going to give them the biggest buck for their time? It's going to be resistance training, which we're going to expand on more. And most people say to me, what about cardio? And I always have to remind them, getting cardio out of resistance training. In fact, we know the studies have shown resistance training is like interval training. We're going to do a challenging set and we're going to recover. We're going to do a challenging set and recover. The way most people do cardio, the way we brought up from the 60s when Kenneth Cooper coined aerobics, they think aerobics is the panacea. It's going to solve everything. Well, if you're constantly doing just low intensity walking, and that's all they ever do, it's not challenging enough to stimulate the metabolism. And most people don't lose weight walking, even though all these books are out there. I've never met anybody that starts a walking program with the goal of losing weight that doesn't change their eating habits. And it's almost always the eating habits. The benefit of resistance training is we're going to stimulate the metabolism. We may gain a little muscle, or we may wake up old existing muscle, and that's our metabolism, of course. And of course, as you know, that's where we burn calories. That's where we burn fats and sugar. So we need to maintain muscle. To me, that's the priority over doing excessive cardio. And most of my clients, the people that just want to be fit, don't need this level of cardiorespiratory efficiency of an athlete. So I make that point to them right away.
Yeah. Didn't Cooper, who started the whole craze on, really developing, the cardio genics, and trying to get people to really look at how to, improve their health. Didn't he actually have a heart attack?
I don't remember. Some of the other long distance runners, as you know, fit, and some of them have died
He
of
did.
heart
He
attacks
he
also.
actually had a heart attack. So you
Yeah,
check into that, which is really kind of strange when you think that, he was one of the gurus trying
yeah,
to lead people to the promised land of good health.
yeah.
And he was missing something very, very important that I believe we'll be touching upon tonight as well. So what does the research show about the whole idea of the quick burst, the exercise? What does it talk? What does the research show?
Well, remember when we do quick bursts of energy, it's going to focus on the fast twitch muscle. That's another whole area most people don't understand. Sedentary people are always losing the fast twitch muscle. And that's really important for elderly people because they can't move fast. They can't move their foot if they trip for balance. So as we lose muscle, it's always the fast twitch. The body, the nervous system always engages our slow twitch first. And then the fast twitch, if we're doing explosive movements, jump boxes, jumping on a box, for instance, and resistance training, if it's heavy enough, if it's challenging enough, works that fast twitch muscle. So what was the point? What was the point we were trying to get to?
Well, it was the whole idea of what does the research show on the advantages of
Oh,
quick burst over, again, long duration exercising.
So again, we're working that fast twitch muscle, which helps us maintain that muscle as we get older, because that's the first muscle we're losing after 30. We're always losing muscle if we're not active. Plus, the fast twitch is challenging the heart. That slow, low intensity walk doesn't challenge what's called our heart reserve. I'm sure you're familiar with that. The ability to handle sudden changes in demand. So I always talk to people that are walking on the treadmill, just that steady, low pace, reading a book. They're not challenging their heart. For instance, you and I grab a chair and we go up the stairs, all of a sudden, bam, 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 a load on the heart. That low intensity walk doesn't do it, but what's HIIT training or interval training, we've got all different names for it. But all it is where we challenge the heart, bring the heart rate up, and then we recover. Bring the heart rate up and recover. And all these studies show we get a lot more out of our cardio efficiency actually doing that than we do just that low intensity walk or jog.
Yeah, well, I think that would be attractive for more and more people if they look at, some of the benefits. And let's talk about what are the benefits of the quick burst exercising.
So again, yeah, so what are the big benefits of the quick burst?
Sure.
Again, strengthening the heart for sudden changes in demand, so we don't stimulate the heart to go into some type of cardio issues. We're going to retain that fast twitch muscle so we can move faster, maintaining more muscle because we're doing resistance training or fast movement training, box jumps, explosive type movement. It's much more important than doing the slow, low intensity type walking. It's not challenging enough. It's not stressful enough to elicit that adaptive response by the body or the heart.
Mm-hmm. So are you talking about just doing resistance training or a combination of resistance training and some cardio? Or are you just talking about resistance training alone?
Okay, again, because the point of my book is most people don't have the time. So if they have limited time, I'm going to always emphasize do some resistance training first. They're going to get more bang for their buck for their time. They're going to get cardio because, again, as you know, if we get on a leg press and put a sufficient weight on, heavy being a relative term, that's challenging for 8 to 15 repetitions. Not only are you getting strength, but we're working the muscle, we're working the heart, we're getting cardio out of resistance training. And I always make the point to my clients, for their needs, just to be generally fit, that's enough cardio training to keep the heart fit so they can handle their normal daily functions, activities without pain, comfortably and without injury.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the 2 days. What are we doing during the 2 days?
So the 2 days are basically, I teach them a total body workout twice a week. I try to simplify it. I always emphasize core. In my routine, I start with core and teach them dynamic core exercises. And I actually developed it where we can do 2 exercises standing up. And the reason I do that is because over the years, I saw many people that are overweight, men and women. It's very embarrassing to get on the floor. We know that sit-ups done improperly are not good for the lower back. They're not comfortable for people. So I do 2 core exercises standing, and I do a lot of rotation work. We might do the ball, pass it to each other back to back, play catch underhand to warm up the core, a few bend over movements, obviously, if they have no injuries or limitations. So I start with core and teach them what dynamic core movements are. And then we get to a simple 2 pushing exercises, 2 pulling exercises, and a leg exercise to begin with. And the goal is 2 days to fitness, 2 workouts, 2 exercises per body part, 2 sets, ideally where it's uncomfortable, ideally to failure when they build a tolerance up for exercise. And that's one of the key components of my program is teaching them that they've got to build a tolerance for exercise so they'll stick with it. So they'll create a habit out of this exercise program.
Mm-hmm. So when they're doing this 2 days a week, how much time are we talking about?
It can be done in as little as 30 minutes to 45 minutes. The warm-up's going to typically take 10 minutes. And when you're only doing 2 sets of each exercise, after the warm-ups, of course, so the warm-up's the key to a good workout, to get the most out of the set. The average person, and I've seen the results, only needs 2 sets, again, challenging to failure. or at least where it's uncomfortable in the beginning. But I help people develop a tolerance for that in the beginning. That's that transition point where most people are overwhelmed in the beginning. They try to do too much. They get a trainer that pushes athletic, skillful type exercise in the beginning, and it pushes them right back out of the gym. I've seen it. There's got to be a transition program and building up a tolerance for exercise. There's a little technique I do because I'm not only building up a tolerance physically, but mentally. If someone's never picked up anything more than a book off the shelf or the garbage, and they've never experienced picking up something what they might consider heavy, their muscles, their nervous system, mentally, they're going to pick it up and go, oh boy, that's heavy. So if you overdo it in the beginning, it becomes drudgery and it's overwhelming, as we keep talking about to them. So there's got to be a nice transition to those two challenging sets, and I do that with a very thorough warm-up.
Now, in your book, do you have? And again, I've read the book for our listening audience benefit. Do you have the step-by-step process so people can walk before they run, doing these types of exercises?
Yes, I explained in there, and as we're talking, I do the same thing. The goal of the book, and I teach them, is to create a habit. That's why the two workouts. We've done the human behavior studies. We know that discipline wanes for most people. This is the difference. Athletes, they have an end goal, so discipline works. So my goal is to create a habit, and we do that by not trying to get in the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week, but just the two. Create that habit first, and then we're gonna transition by walking through. They may only do the warm-up routine with me in the beginning. Go in there. If they're going to a gym, I've got people in their 60s, 70s. I know which machines to put them on. The comfortable ones, almost everyone can do. Say they're going to sit down and do a chest press machine. Well, I'm going to always err on the side of too little so I can help develop that tolerance. I just want them to begin the program, only do the 2 workouts a week. The first few weeks, maybe only go in and spend 20 minutes and only do the warm up. Create that habit first. Get in the habit of going just those 2 days a week. It works for all my clients. It's not overwhelming. In fact, most of my clients, I err on the side of too little. They come back the next workout and I go, how do you feel? And they go, I feel great. And because they could do it and perform the workout, it wasn't drudgery, it wasn't overwhelming. There's a greater chance they're going to stick with it. Because I see this in the gym all the time. This is big, Dr. J. I have watched at many gyms, the trainers, the fitness directors overwhelm that person on their fitness evaluation. I've been sitting next to the desk listening to people walk up to the fitness for the personal trainer's desk. And these are true stories. And I saw the trainer walk away. They were getting a free assessment, a mother and a daughter, and the mother's going to the daughter, I can't do this. He's killing me. This is the big mistake with young trainers and people trying to kind of justify their existence, trainers, in the beginning, and they overwhelm them, and especially with athletic, skillful. I think you know what the ropes are, the big heavy ropes in the gym where you swing them up and down. I've seen trainers bring seniors in and start them out on that. I never do. I tell the young trainers that listen to me, err on the side of too little in the beginning, because these are not athletes. They only want general fitness. Very important.
Yeah, you're setting up a whole system for injury is what you're doing when you try to overwhelm them like that when they haven't been doing anything. You
Yeah,
gotta go gingerly, and
yeah.
that's the whole idea.
That's the key.
I know years ago, probably about 5 years ago, my wife and I went to a CrossFit program, and the instructor was pretty aggressive. I just told my wife, I said, you gotta back down a little bit. I was used to doing a lot of resistance training and cardio training. My wife wasn't, and even when I told her to pull back, it was still too much for her. So
Yeah.
she ended up having to drop out because she injured herself, even though that I kind of try to really tone back from what this guy was doing. So it's important people realize that you just can't jump into things too fast. And so
Yeah,
that I like the conservative approach.
I want to establish a base workout first for everybody. If they develop very fast, they say, Rick, I can do this. We can always layer on more. If they're ready to go, we can advance immediately. But Most
Mhm.
of my clients that just want general fitness love the preparation I do for them because I've got clients coming to my house in their 60s and 70s. I got a new guy just a couple of weeks ago came in. He was hesitant to come with his wife. He said, but the proof's in the pudding. After 2 weeks, he feels better. He saw my approach, a realistic approach. I gave him a chance to go at his own pace. We started light. There's no reason to. A lot of trainers don't understand. If you've never done anything for months or years, anything you do is above and beyond what the body was accustomed to. So it doesn't take much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, the warm up, like you said, is probably the most important thing. And even starting people up with a warm up for like a week or so, just to kind of get the body acclimated to getting, like you said, those fast twitch muscles working and getting them acclimated to something different. And, getting just a lot of people don't do rotational exercises. And so starting with that is, I think, really a very wise thing to do because you're gonna help not only the muscles, but you're gonna help the fascia, which I think is even more
Mm,
important than the muscles.
mhm.
Is helping that fascia to stretch and get it
Yes.
gliding and moving, so
That,
you don't have muscle injury later on. So I think it's really important. So that's a good point. How many people would you say have, since you wrote the book, have gone through your program, with you alone? I mean, just how many people would you say?
in the last 15 years, I mean, we're talking at least 1,000 people through the couple gyms I work at, and
Mhm.
they're constantly telling me that to talk to more people. They love the program to expand on it, which I'm getting ready to
Mhm.
do. I'm getting ready to do a YouTube channel so I can demonstrate the exercises also.
And that's a wise thing. Yeah, I think it's really good. Give people those visual things that they can do to
Mhm.
see, how they could advance. And then, you could give, maybe three different stages, beginning, intermediate, and advanced, kind of let people see what they could do.
Yeah.
That's a wise thing, I think. So let's talk a little bit about, your dietary approach to helping because, you and I both know that just working out and then eating the average American diet, you're still not going to get very far and you're going to get frustrated. So let's talk a little bit about what your approach is.
So I'll always make the point, and there's a lot of studies right now, and I agree with a couple of books that I've read. I didn't write them down, I should have, but the mechanical stress alone of resistance training will help most people, even if they don't eat right. This is a good thing to do because of mitochondria health, the metabolism, better metabolism of fats and sugars. So the mechanical stress alone of resistance training, I love. I point that out. For most people, I always tell them I can work with vegans, I can work with the the paleo guys. It doesn't matter. The biggest thing is to get rid of the crap, as you know, the simple carbs. And the first thing I do, as a young trainer, I made the mistake of sitting down, writing out these elaborate eating routines and nutrition. Well, I finally realized over the years nobody was listening to most people are not going to drastically change their lifestyle. So you got to give them some small changes. So as you and I know, the first thing I do, if they can't, if they really want to lose body fat for those people, if they can't eliminate all the sugar drinks, there's no need to push any further. I explained to him that means even the juice in the morning, all the sports drinks, the sweet tea, and then all the sodas, of course. We could get into high fructose corn syrup. That's a whole nother story. But if I start them out with some simple changes, let's get rid of the sugars. And then let's start out the day with a good breakfast. Most people, as you know, it's the latte and donuts. I mean, they're starting out the day so bad. I mean, it's just destroying their pancreas. They're abusing their pancreas, as you know.
Yeah. Well, certainly the sugar is one of the major culprits. But that being said, when you're eating any kind of refined grains,
Hmm.
you're getting the equivalent of sugar because it's metabolized so fast
So you're
that
right.
it acts like sugar. As a matter of fact, the United States Department of Agriculture has shown in studies that the refined grains like white flour and white rice and those type of things, they literally act like white sugar in the body.
Yeah, cornbread, same thing. Yeah.
So you got to eat the whole grains.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about token whole grains either, because sometimes people will go to the supermarket, buy some whole grain bread, for example, and it's really just a glorified white bread with some
enriched.
molasses on it, and it's still
Yeah,
refined to all get go.
yeah,
And you've got to get the good unrefined breads that's heavy. When you think of a
yes,
loaf of bread, and I always like to use the example of, and that's not the only bread, but Ezekiel bread's a good example. There's no sugar in it, and it's a heavy loaf of bread. Now, the average person may not want to have that bread as the first place to start with, but you've got to move in the direction of getting the whole grain breads. And there's lots of good ones out there, but careful of the sugar because people are now getting these breads
mhm.
with a lot of sugar, a lot of added sugar. So I don't recommend that. And I'm not so much against fruit. Fruit to me is a good thing to have, and you can add the fruit to your bread to make it sweet if you want.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. The only bread I eat is Ezekiel bread, Dr. J, and I only
Good for
have it.
you.
I only have it in the morning with my eggs.
Good for you.
Talking about
Well,
talking about.
and you could have if you want something sweet. I had some this morning. I had Ezekiel bread with raisins,
Mhm.
and it's a whole food, and that's the key. If you're eating whole foods, you're going to be able to get some sweet to satisfy that because
Yeah.
our bodies are designed by our creator to crave sweets.
Mhm.
We are, that's just the way we're designed.
Mhm.
We love fruit, and that's the way we should be eating, but we've gravitated towards all this artificial sweets,
Mhm.
and that has become the detriment to our bodies. So yeah, but go ahead and talk more about what you're suggesting for people to do with the
So,
balancing their foods.
so I'm like you. I like the fruits, the berries, specifically blueberries, strawberries. I have them in the morning. And I have to qualify if a person's been just slightly overweight for a short period of time, or if somebody's got pre-diabetic and diabetic. I always make the point: all sugars, even the fruits. If somebody's seriously overweight, diabetic, they've got to be more careful than somebody like you and I. Our metabolism is working well. Our pancreas hasn't been abused. We can eat a little bit of good carbs and eat some fruit. We're okay. If somebody's really trying to lose weight and they've been overweight a long time, I still restrict the fruit later in the day, especially when they're at night. I like a little bit in the morning so they get those antioxidants and polyphenols, but I would restrict a lot of fruit also. But I
Mhm.
have, Dr. J, I've been eating 4 to 6 eggs every morning for 40 years. I was a competitive bodybuilder in the 80s. I'm still eating them. They satisfy the protein. And I don't know if you want to get into the cholesterol and the saturated fat, but I know that it's good for me as long as I'm not eating all that with the lots of simple carbs that are bad for me.
Mhm.
Now, the rest of
Well,
the day,
good, good.
lunch, I like meats, I like tuna fish. Dinner, simple for me, just veggies, a salad, and grass-fed beef, or I eat at least once a week sockeye salmon. Dinner's simple, veggies and a protein source. It's not hard.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Well, I think, when it comes to saturated fat, I think we're talking about, really, we're walking on some thin ice as far as I'm concerned. I know we need some. I think that they're good saturated fats come from things like coconut oil.
Mhm.
Those are good. And I don't think that's, totally a bad thing to have eggs. I think eggs are good. I had some eggs this morning for breakfast. So I'm with you there. I'm just thinking a little bit perspective. That may be a little bit too much, but you've been doing it for 40 years. So I know there's cultures around the world that do eat a lot of eggs and
Mhm.
don't have any problems with cardiovascular disease. Um, the people I know in the blue zones, for example, in Costa Rica and those types of places, they eat eggs, and their incidence of heart disease is very low. But I would maybe caution people and not have. You're saying you eat 6 eggs a day?
I do.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go that far. I would say personally, if I'm recommending, I would say 3 days a week to have a couple of eggs. That's not a problem. But you're working out with heavy weights probably too.
But my workouts are still, I turned 70 in 2 weeks, but I'm still training and out training a lot of guys a third my age. So I still like intense workouts 4 or 5 days a week for myself.
So when you're working out with like weights, like what's like what kind of weights are what's the level?
I'm
How much
still
weight?
I'm still deadlifting close to 4. My bench press is still over 225.
There you go.
Uh,
See,
but
that's why,
I
you need that to build up your muscle, like your
exactly.
muscle.
So a
So,
couple
but
legs for the average person is fine. Yes.
yeah, but if you're not doing that kind of intense exercise, that's a good idea. By the way, um, I had been going to the gym. I love going to the gym. I'm a gym rat. I've always been a gym rat. I play a lot of basketball. I'm 73, by the way. I'll be
Mm,
74 in July. And I play basketball, competitive basketball with college students at Kent State University. Kent State just got into the so I think it was a Sweet 16 in the basketball
mm,
tournament.
mhm,
And I play basketball with Kent State students at
mhm.
70. I'm going to be 74 in a couple months.
It's the way it's
So
meant to
I'm
be.
really into competitive exercising. But a couple months ago, more like 5 months ago, I've been going to the gym about 3 days a week, working out with weights. And I wasn't working out with heavy weights. The most I was benching was around 100 pounds. And I did maybe like about 7 or 8 reps, 3 or 4 sets.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine who's a competitive bodybuilder said, Dr. J, you need to do some heavy weights. And so I thought, maybe I'll try a little bit. And I injured both of my shoulders.
Mm,
I went probably a little too fast, but
yeah.
in any event, I should have known better.
Yeah, you should
But
have known better.
I should have known better. But you think you're invincible. You know, I feel like I'm in my late 20s, early
Oh
30s. To
yeah.
be honest with you, that's the
Yeah.
way I feel.
That's the way it's meant to
So,
be. Yeah.
I'm not going to go there again. I'm just going to stay right where I'm at with
Well,
where I was at because
well, remember, heavy is a relative term. So as you said, the right weight is what I tell people for the repetition range you want to accomplish. That's what it's about. The weight is just a means to an end. So for you, for somebody else, I'm looking for the right resistance that they could do comfortably and with good form through a nice active range of motion in the beginning and not overdo it. Yeah, you probably went too fast, added to weight too fast. But at any age, you can improve your strength if it's done correctly.
sure, sure. Well, again, I should have known better, but I didn't. So it happens to all of us, right?
So,
So anyway, so let's talk a little bit more about the average American's consuming a lot of sugar. And do you have any tricks for people to be able to reduce the sugar so that they can start to see some of the effects of getting rid of that stuff and starting losing some of the weight and building some muscle mass?
as you know, the only way to get off the sugar, and I cycle throughout the year where I'm more strict. I like a little dessert sometimes, a piece of cheesecake. Of course, if you have a little bit of dessert with a good meal, the glycemic load is not going to be as bad as having an empty stomach donut, as you know. But then I find myself eating a little bit too many desserts once in a while. And 1 week or 2 week, completely eliminate sugar, and you will not need it. You won't desire it. It just simply works. Once you get rid of the sugar for a couple weeks and eat good food and meals you like, and eat a little bit of fruit in the morning. I like avocados with my food. It's easy to get away from if you take a couple weeks of eliminating the sugar. That's the only way you can do it. You got to my tip is keep it out of the house. If I have it in the house, I'm like anybody. I will try some.
Yeah, well, there are some good alternatives to sugar, like chicory root is a good alternative, and
Okay.
you can use something like that. It's a low glycemic, and it's got really good taste if you get the liquid chicory.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some good options for you to be able to
Yeah, I
use.
like coconut. You got some of the frozen coconut ice creams are real good, low sugar. Yeah, there's some treats out there if you look.
Sure. Yeah, I had some chocolate avocado pudding tonight for dinner. That was really
Oh
good.
yeah, I've tried that. That's very good. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. And so I use some. It's actually the chicory root, and it's a good sweetener for that. And
Okay.
I know some people will put maple syrup in it. I think a little bit of that's okay once in a while, but like you said, you don't want to do too much of it, but you don't want to eliminate because then you're going to binge out somewhere else. So
Exactly.
I believe a little bit of in moderation is a good idea. And
I agree.
the other day I made some. I took some rolled oats and I added some really small cut up apples. I chopped them up real fine with the skins on them, and I added some sunflower seeds, some walnuts, and and um, and then I put some almond butter and some coconut butter, and I kind of mixed it up and squished it all up and everything, and made it into I put it into a glass pan and made it into squares,
Mm,
and it was absolute. And put some cinnamon with it.
mhm,
It's absolutely wonderful
mm,
because that apple gives you that sweet, and
mhm,
the almond butter makes it stick, and it's so good. I mean, it's so simple,
mhm,
and it satisfies your sweet tooth. And you can put a little bit of, like if you want a little bit of maple syrup, or if you want to put a
mhm.
little bit of chicory root in there, you could do that. But it's you don't need much.
No.
It's really tasty, and the spices make it really really good. The cinnamon makes it delicious too.
So one of
And
my
they
other
have,
snacks, I just thought of one of my other snacks I drink in the evenings every other night is kefir. And you can buy it plain, but you can buy it with a little cane sugar in it too. So one of my treats is I'll buy the kefir, the strawberry, the blueberry, my favorite. They got a berry, and that's like a shake. It's got a great source of probiotics because they ferment it after it's been pasteurized, and a little bit of the cane sugar. That's a delicious treat too, kefir.
there's a I like to use coconut yogurt, and the coconut yogurt I like to use is it's so delicious, and there's no sugar in it at all. It's zero sugar. And so what I do is I'll add some what's called Simply Fruit. It's a
Mm,
jelly with no sugar in it,
yeah,
and I'll use that to add some sweetener, and
yeah.
or I'll get some fruit like strawberries or
Hmm.
blueberries, and I'll put them in the blender and just add that into it, and it's really delicious. And with the coconut yogurt, you're still getting the fermented food. So there's a lot of different little tricks you can do to get
Yeah,
satisfy that sweet tooth, and but you're feeding the microbiome,
yeah.
giving your body really a good source of, as you said, the bioflavonoids. Those are
Hmm.
really important for our heart health and to
Hmm.
prevent cancer. So there's so many benefits you can get from eating foods that are natural
Hmm.
and still get satisfaction in that sweet tooth. So
Yeah.
those are all good choices.
Another
So
one, frozen blueberries is another one I use. Put the blueberries in the freezer and you pop a few of those in your mouth.
yeah,
It's like ice cream.
it is. And I like to make smoothies that way.
Yeah,
And I know that some people don't like to use bananas, but I don't have any problem using a banana. Again, it's whole food. I'm
yes.
all about whole food.
I like
And
bananas too.
I've taught my patients over the years that if you're eating whole foods, your body is going to crave that. And if you've been eating the refined carbohydrates and the sugar, and you shift to the way we're talking about eating right now, your body's going to work in a favorable way, and it's going to lose weight without even trying
Mm,
because
I
you've
agree.
shifted away from something that's detrimental to your body,
Yeah.
and now you're giving something good. So I don't have any problem using a ripe banana, putting
No,
some
I don't.
frozen blueberries, some coconut yogurt, some ice in the blender, and some coconut milk, and just blending it up, and you can make it real thick like ice cream.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So there, and again, I know you brought up the coconut ice cream. I used to love that, but there's too much sugar in that, so I stay away from
Oh
that.
no, there's a brand without the sugar in. You look for it on the
Well,
shelf.
the problem with that is, Rick, is they're using erythritol,
Mm,
and I've seen that brand,
okay.
and I don't like erythritol
Okay.
because that's a refined sugar, and it's an alcohol sugar,
Okay, you're right.
and it disturbs the gut.
Yeah.
And I don't like to do anything to disturb the gut
Yeah.
because I'm really all about healing the gut.
Yeah. The
I have a program
microbiome.
I've got a program that I have a course that's called the Gut 911 God Prescription. So
Hmm.
I'm all about helping people to repair their gut because
Yeah.
that's really the most important thing. But
It
let's get
is.
back to your book. Let's talk about your book. We're getting shifting away from that. So where does a person start with your book? Well, how do they start? First of all, they got to buy it.
Well, I've actually evolved on the nutrition side a little bit as we were speaking, so I'm revamping that. But if they want, at the end, you can give them my email, and I'll still send them. I'll send them the link to the ebook free. So
Well,
because
that's
I'm
nice.
revamping reason I'm revamping is we were talking a lot 15 years ago about having small meals all throughout the day, and at the time, I kind of forgot as athletes we could do more things than the person that's overweight. You can eat small meals all through the day. And as you know, every time we eat a meal, we're getting a squirt of insulin. And because you and I are healthy and in shape, we can handle that. But we were talking a lot about doing small meals throughout the day. It was real big in the past few decades. But I think that's the wrong course for people that are overweight, out of shape. I like the 2 to 3 meals a day, so they allow their blood sugars to go down. So while they're not snacking in the middle of the day, we get in that portion of the day where the body's using fats for energy. There's a mechanism in our muscles after that first hour eating when blood sugars drop, and then the muscles switch over to using fats for energy, the Krebs cycle, the aerobic cycle. But if we're eating all day long small snacks, unless you're an athlete like you and I, we're out there playing basketball 2 or 3 hours, we can get away with it. We have a well-functioning metabolism. But people are out of shape, overweight. I like the 2 to 3 meals a day. It allows their blood sugars to come down, allows the body to work better, the microbiome, everything to heal better. So that was one of the changes that I'm getting into at the revamp on the nutrition side.
I think that's a good idea because you've got to give the body also a rest. Now, I understand when you're doing, a lot of resistance training with heavy weights, that, your body's going to be using a lot of fuel. So you got to really, refurbish the fuel. But as you said, when the average American, I don't think that's a good idea. You got to give your digestive system a rest.
Yes.
And by, having them eat these small frequent meals, and that was the old school way, I believe,
I think so
trying
too.
to keep your blood sugar, normalized, and that was, the thinking back then. But I
Right.
believe that it's a much wiser choice to get concentrated nutrients in whole foods. And I like superfoods, Rick. I'm really, really big into superfoods. When you get superfoods in your body, you're not going to crave foods and your body's not going to be starving. The average American body is starving at the cellular level, and that's why they're constantly craving food. So when you get things like superfoods, we're talking about things like, you said blueberries, that's a superfood, but there's so many other ones now that we have available to us, like chlorella, spirulina, barley grass.
Yeah, the
These
greens.
things, these greens are like so important to get the nutrients and the phytochemicals
Yes.
that really they start to change our whole body chemistry so that we don't crave the foods like we did before.
Yeah.
So I have to sometimes force myself to eat because of the fact that I'm getting so much
Good.
nutrition from these
Yes.
superfoods.
Yeah, you don't need as much food.
Yeah, but but again, it's really interesting because when I was, before I picked up your book, I was eating mostly carbs, but now I really think that it's really important especially when you go into the gym, to ramp up that protein. And so now I've decided that since I'm getting, in my it'll be 74, close to 75 here, another year after that, I'm thinking that, we start losing muscle mass as we get older, and protein is important for that. And most older people don't eat very much protein.
Right.
So I think, not eating an exaggerated amount, but I still think it's good to get a sufficient amount of protein, especially if you're working out, and doing any kind of workouts. I think it's important. So
Yes.
I think, that's modification for me in this next, wave of what I'm doing myself personally.
So that's why again, because you're so active, and I work with people that play basketball, like you said, for the active person, the 2 workouts is perfect for you because that's all you need to work that fast twitch muscle. 2 short 45-minute workouts during the week is all you need because you're healthy and shape. You're already doing plenty of traditional cardio, I call it, playing basketball and other activities like that.
Well, since COVID, I have, the only time I play basketball now is in the spring and the summer outside, because once COVID hit, we stopped going to the gym in Kent State, and I've not got back into the habit of going back up to the gym. So during the winter, what I do is I do quick burst exercise running upstairs,
I love stairs.
and I do
Mhm.
staircase running, and I do like a minute and a half usually from up running upstairs, and then I rest for 90 seconds, and I do like 5 or 6 or 7 sets of that, and that's really a good
That's,
cardio too.
that is great. I love stairs. It's fun.
To me, it is too. I
Yeah.
look at it as being fun. And I think another thing is as people get older, they lose that sense of balance. And doing things like running upstairs, or I have an exercise I teach people. It's called the tree. I don't know if you ever seen it. You probably have, where you put your arms out and then you rotate your body,
Hmm.
and then you rotate it one way and the other way, and you spin. And people, when I do that at the gym, they say you look like a friggin' helicopter. So I actually did a video on the internet for the tree exercise, and I put a helicopter head on it, a little spinning thing up on
Yeah.
top. But it's really good to keep your balance, because when your feet are planted in the ground, and and you're doing that quick turn rotation,
Hmm.
the proprioceptors, the nerve endings in your feet, are kind of like anti-lock brakes, and they have to kind of ground themselves and kind of help to get that position on the earth. And so it keeps your balance. So
Hmm.
I teach all my patients. I've had people who used to be able to, when they were walking, they would kind of almost fall over, and I taught them how to do the tree. And after a while, their balance, even in their 80s, was absolutely amazing.
Okay.
So
So since
keeping
you're
themselves,
So since you're
and
talking about balance, what I do in my program is, remember, balance requires all those small muscles in the hip, the adductor, the rotators, the abductor muscles to be strong. And most seniors don't have that. So a couple of the exercises I do that I think are more important than walking is the potty squat, or the body weight squat, as you know. So a lot of people can't do it. I'll teach them to do it to a chair at first. I'll have them sit in front of me. I may hold their hands and make them engage their hips and not fall forward, as you know what seniors do. But one of my other exercises I like, not everybody can do it. As you know, standing on one foot is good, back and forth. But a great exercise is a lunge. Now, what I do for my clients is I'll do a reverse lunge. To me, it's a little easier, and I'll have something for them that they could touch and hold on. Maybe the bench right next to them on the floor. And I have them do a slow pick the foot up, do the reverse lunge, put it behind them, lunge down, come back up, and do alternating lunges. So I teach them, as they're picking their foot up the floor, the other hip muscles, of course, are all engaged for them, and they're getting a greater range of motion. They don't have to go all the way down, of course, in the beginning. Some people can't, but it's a great way to start a great exercise for hip, the big muscles of the hip. I think that's the most important exercise I teach, is the potty squat, strengthening the hips, especially for seniors, so they can stay mobile and strong the rest of their life.
yeah, I think doing the squat, I see so many people doing the squats where they're bent over really far. They really need to keep their spine straight. And
Exactly.
doing it properly is more important than doing something with a lot of weights and then really screwing up your back.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think starting off with just next to a chair and squatting so your back's straight when you're doing it.
Mhm.
And it's going to build strength in your legs, like you said, and it's going to help all the hip muscles. It's going to really build strength there, and you're gonna do yourself a lot of good. You don't need to do a lot of weights if you
No,
just do things
no.
just like you just said right there. If you do that, it's
Body weight squats.
it's gonna build strength.
Yes. And then when you do the lunge, remember, you got all your body weight on one leg. That's more than enough for most people. Yeah, squatting. I don't do any weight for my clients. We might grab a dumbbell once in a while, or I'll do a goblet squat for my clients that can do a goblet squat. They add a little bit of weight, plus that weight out in front helps them strengthen that lower back if they have good form, which we work on good form, of course.
Mhm. So, what do you suggest people do with the dietary measures when they're first starting off, as far as you know, the way to be able to move away from the refined diet that the average American is eating to getting into your strategy of eating? What would you recommend people doing?
So again, we got to find foods that they like in the beginning. I eliminate the sugar drinks in the beginning. That's the first thing I talked about. Of course, cooking with the vegetable oils. I try to keep the soy, if they've been cooking with the vegetable oils, down so we can get that omega-3s and omega-6s back normalizing, using the right oils to cook in. That's real important, as you know.
What kind of oils are you recommending?
Well, the only thing I typically cook with it, because it's around the house, is some butter or olive oil. Of course, there's a couple other oils you can use. Of course, you got to be
Okay, yeah.
careful even
So
with olive oil.
olive oil is really good. You know, you got to be careful with the olive oil because
With the
I know
heat, you got to be careful.
a lot of people are, getting olive oils that are coming from places like Italy, and they're really been corrupted. 60 Minutes did a special on olive
Hmm.
oils and showed that the
Yes.
mafia in Italy has taken over the olive oil industry and they're cutting it with
Mhm.
cheap oils.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about that. And good quality oil from, I like to get it
Yeah.
from places like Portugal or Spain. Those are really good oils. And Trader Joe's. I'm not sure if you got a Trader Joe's
Oh
near
yeah.
you.
We got Trader Joe's. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
they actually on 60 Minutes show that was the best quality for the best price anywhere in the country at Trader Joe's. So that's a good tip for people to get the Trader Joe's brand because they
Mhm.
really scrutinize the suppliers, making
The
sure people
quality.
get the right good quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Okay,
worth
so
spending.
getting the good oils, getting the fruits in the morning, and you're recommending people eat eggs, which is I have no problem with that, but I would tell people to not have them every day because the average American has what you know, I'm really big on is talking about the leaky gut.
Oh yeah.
And leaky gut goes tandem with food allergies, which so many people have. And that's one of my big fortes is helping people to get off the foods they react to.
Hmm.
And when you're living with a leaky gut, which the average American is,
Yep.
and you're eating the same foods every single day, you're flooding your digestive system with those proteins that are going to cause reactions eventually. And so that's why I tell people to rotate foods for the average person
Yeah.
so that they don't develop these food allergies or food sensitivities.
Hmm.
So anyway, so what else do you recommend for the rest of the day? You had breakfast covered. What else do you recommend for the rest?
Lunch again for me. I may just sit and eat a can of tuna. Just as simple as that. Maybe a little avocado. A lot of days, believe it or not, I only have two meals. I'll have a late breakfast and then a late dinner because I go to bed early every night, 7:30, 8 typically, because I'm up at 4:30 every day. I've owned clubs for years, so I'm up and at it every day. So
Okay, and how
again,
many hours of sleep are you getting?
I get a good 8 hours sleep. I sleep
Okay, that's
good.
good.
Yeah.
That's good because most people are not getting the right amount of sleep, and that's where your body is able to recharge itself, the immune system, and be able to reset everything inside your body. So that's good.
And intense exercise helps with that. A lot of people don't
Mm.
understand that. It's so sedentary. They're not moving, they're not doing anything, and they wonder why they don't sleep. They're lazy all the day. The body's so slow all day, it probably doesn't need to sleep, other than the helpful part. But no,
Now, when you,
my diet is simple. A
yeah,
few
yeah,
eggs in the morning, avocado I use a lot, a coconut milk. Uh, I do grass-fed beef when I eat it. I eat fish every week, at least once a week. A little bit of chicken, making sure that it's organic chicken when I eat it. But I don't eat near as much food as you and I know that most people eat. They don't need as much if it's quality superfoods, as you said.
Mhm.
Most
Yep.
Americans, we're not active like our forefathers were. We don't need as much food. And most people have plenty of stored food on their bodies, and they're not going to get at it if they're eating all the time and if they're eating the wrong foods. So eating a substantial meal, as we've been talking about, and then don't eat for 4 or 5 hours, your blood sugar levels will stay in the right zone by eating a quality superfood meal, and you won't be
Mhm.
hungry.
Mhm. Mhm. So, when people are doing this 2 day a week program for the resistance training, do you find people are able to reduce the belly fat? Because that's so big for average American.
Yeah, you're going to have a quality metabolism. They're going to add a little bit of muscle. They're going to wake up dormant muscle. So the metabolism is going to be working better. If they are eating some of the bad foods, at least they got a place for the fats and sugars to be metabolized. But yeah, most of my clients, I've got a couple of clients, as soon as I got them on the weight training and they've been eating already, right, but they were probably eating too much food, they saw a loss in body fat over the first 6 to 8 weeks, just through the resistance training alone. These were people that were eating moderately good already. They came to me and said, Rick, I'm eating good, but I'm not losing weight. To me, their metabolism is not functioning well. They're not stimulating the metabolism. Their muscle was dormant because they're just not doing active exercise.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, how do people get your book again? How would people be able to get your book, the ebook?
Just go ahead and email me at my email, 2days2fitness@gmail. But it's the numerical number 2 days, DAYS, the numerical number 2 again, 2days2fitness@gmail.com.
So it's the number 2, the actual numeral 2.
Correct.
Days, DAYS, and then the numeral 2 again.
2days2fitness.
To fitness. Okay. At gmail.com.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's really nice that you're offering them to get in that book. It's a very well written book. And again, I think that, you and Dr. Grisanti, teaming up to do that, I think you did a great service. And I believe people are going to get a lot of benefit from it. And although that there's a lot of other variables that people have to take into consideration when they're trying to lose belly fat and they're trying to lose weight, these are great steps in the right direction. There's no question about it. There could be hormone imbalances.
Yes.
There could be food sensitivity, food allergies. There could be, some other glitches that are going on inside the body that need to be addressed. But this is certainly a big step in the right direction. And I'm so thankful that you wrote the book, and we're glad that you came on and shared that with us this evening. And we'll look forward to your new book coming out. Maybe when that comes out, we'll have you back on the program again.
Thank you, Dr. J. I appreciate it. And I enjoy giving back at this stage in our life, both you and I love giving back, giving our time and our knowledge and helping people.
Well, we have a responsibility. We have to carry on the torch with people like Jack LaLanne. So, we have to stay out there and stay in front of the public's eye and be able to share how you don't have to deteriorate as you age. You can continue to be able to be at high performance level as you age, as long as you're treating your body the way God intended it.
Yeah.
So I'm inspired by people like yourself, but also people like my mentors, Paul Braggs and Jack LaLanne, and these guys that were forerunners to the fitness movement in years. And these guys were really inspirational. If you remember who Paul Braggs is, but he at 96 years old died in a surfboard accident. What a way to go on a surfboard.
Jack LaLanne too. I grew up watching him and his 2 dogs on TV when I was a kid. Yeah. Look at all things. Look what he did in the 70s, 80s, all the crazy stuff he did, pulling boats in the water, swimming.
75 years of age, he was pulling 75 rowboats.
Yeah.
It's like in the water. Yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff. But, the thing about it is that, we need to give people an inspiration. And I think people like yourself and myself were here to be able to teach people that the body is a miraculous organism that really has potential beyond what we can imagine. And we need to give young people and old people a way to be able to see that they can achieve these things, and they don't have to accept that they're going to get older and be in a retirement home and having people take money out of their back pocket and don't even know who's doing it or where they're at. It's not necessary.
Exactly right.
So thank you so much, and we'll have to keep in touch.
Yes, Dr. J. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, God bless you.
Same to you.
Bye now.